And welcome back to this Blender training series. What we're going to be doing today is just another simple task to do with translating. So making sure that we can move these shapes around and we're familiar with moving them along these different axes. We're going to start with the cube. So if you don't have the cube there, just go File and New, and that'll open the default file. If you've changed things, you'd need to go to Load Factory Settings, but then keep in mind if you do that, you'll have to go back in and change the undo steps up to 256. If you've got a really old computer, you probably don't want to have those undo steps at 256, but for us, and where I know most of you guys are working, these computers can handle it. So we're going to duplicate this, and I'm holding Shift, you can see down there, and I'm pushing the D key. That will duplicate it. I don't need to click anything, but I can move my mouse around now. So I've got this duplicated cube. What I want to do is hit the Y button on the keyboard, and see it locks it to that Y axis, so I can only move it along there. Now I'm going to hold down the Control key, and you'll see that it will lock it to the grid. So I've done one duplicate, and I'm going to do that again, Y, and move it to there. So I've actually got 3 cubes in here. Now I'm going to add another mesh, a cone, and I'm going to drag this cone up. Now I'm actually just going to drag it up using this bit here rather than grabbing it and moving it along the Y. So I grab that up, bring it up there. I'm going to add another mesh, another cone. I'll drag that twice that way and 2 up, and I'll duplicate this one, Y, move it 2 that way. So I've got just a block with some little spiky things on it, nothing too interesting there. But notice how they're all exact. Now what we want to have a look at is on the number pad. If you push the number 1, you will get the front view of the object. If I push the number 3, I'll get the side view from the right. If I push the number 7, I get the top view. And then if I push the number 5, I just want to demonstrate this. If I push the number 5, it goes into an orthogonal view. It's quite handy sometimes, and we will use it when we're doing the little low poly worlds. But for now, just keep it in perspective. So it should say up there perspective. So 1, 3, and 7 will put you in those different views, and they're really handy to switch around with. So we're going to add a few more things to this. We're going to add another mesh, and this mesh is going to be a cylinder. Now notice that mine is always adding to the center here. If you've clicked somewhere over here and you go to add a cylinder, well, it's going to add it over there, and then it's going to be quite difficult to get it back in alignment with these other things, because it's going to be moving grid units, but it's not going to be necessarily aligned to the grid. Now I did talk about this the other day, bringing this back to the center at Shift S on the keyboard, and you want to set the cursor to the center. That'll take it back there. So that way if you add a mesh like a cylinder, it'll take it in there and put it in the center. Now while I've got this cylinder still selected and I haven't moved it, I'm going to go down here and turn the vertices down to 16. And I'm also going to turn that's it. I'm just going to turn the vertices down to 16. I'm going to hold Control and I'm going to move that way. Then I'm going to add another mesh, a cone, and I'm going to turn the vertices on the cone down to 16 as well. Move that to the right, move it up twice. You can see that that should match. These ones wouldn't match it because they have 32 vertices. This one here only has 16 vertices. Now a vertice is a single point in 3D. A polygon is made up of 3 or more vertices. A polygon with 3 vertices is called a trie. A polygon with 4 vertices is called a quad. And then a polygon with more than 4 vertices is actually called an n-gon, where n-gon just refers to the number of vertices that it has. But for the most part, we'll be just using tries and polygons, or tries and quads. I'm going to add in another mesh here. And I'm going to add in a torus. A torus isn't one that normally gets used. I'm going to move it to the side here a little bit. And here's one of the issues that we see. Okay, so I've moved it to the side, but I can't make any changes to this anymore. So I'm just going to delete that, and add mesh torus. You see I've got these different options down here. I can change the number of segments on it. I can change the minor segments on it as well. So I want to have 12 and 8. I'm going to move this way. You see it looks a lot different to what it did before. And I'm going to bring it up so it just kind of sits up here like that. Now I'm going to add in another mesh. I'm going to add in a UV sphere. There's two different spheres here. The UV sphere, I'm going to just change the number of segments down to 12. 12. And the rings to 12 as well. You'll see what this does in a minute when I bring it up. I'm going to balance it on top of that point. And so the number of segments is how many of these faces it has all the way around, and the number of rings is how many it has from top to bottom. Now I will add in a mesh, an icosphere. An icosphere has subdivisions on it. An icosphere is more like a soccer ball. If you think of how a soccer ball is made, this is what an icosphere is like. I'm going to turn that up to 3, bring it that way twice, and bring it up, and you'll see that it's got that. Now, I prefer the icosphere, but it does depend on what purpose you're using your sphere for. Icosphere tends to be easier to deform and kind of make a bit more natural looking when we're doing low poly trees than this over here. Mainly because this is made up of tris, a lot of tris, and this is made up of a lot of quads. We're going to add one more mesh, and no, we've actually added all the meshes that I wanted to add. Plane, we'll add in a plane, and that plane goes right down there. We're going to change the radius of the plane up to 10, so I can actually type that 10 in, and then I'm just going to move it down 1 unit. Okay, so everything kind of sits on top of that little plane there. Now, if I spin underneath, you'll see some really funky stuff happening here. This is an issue called Zfighting, or Zfighting, however you want to say it, and it occurs when two planes occupy the exact same 3D space. The computer doesn't know which one is the right one to render, and so it tries to render both, and it does some really odd looking things. I mean, it's okay when it's like this. I'm never going to see it, but if I was to render this out as an animation and I was looking at this part, it would be really glitched out. It would just be kind of flashing black on the screen, and it looks horrible. So we have to be aware of that. We don't want that to occur. And next we're going to do some rotation. So we're going to add another mesh, a cone. Now this cone, I'm going to bring this cone just out to the right here. Then I'm going to hit R and X, no Y, and rotate it until it matches up with that, which should be 90 degrees. Now I'm just going to click and I'll show you where it'll say it. It will say it down here. So if I repeat that again, I'll add another mesh, a cone. I'm going to move it 2 units this way, move it out this way, and R, Y. And if you look down in that bottom corner, just down here, oops, my mouse wants to move away, but over towards that direction there, you'll see that it says -90. Okay, so I can play around with that there. And I'll duplicate this one, Y, lock it to there, move it across here. Okay, so we're not making anything of meaning at the moment. All we're doing is just practicing some of these different techniques. Next thing I want to do is actually do a proper scale. Now this one, this cube in the center, I'm going to move it, and I'm going to move it 2 units that way. So I'm holding down control while I move those. There's lots of different ways I could move it. I could push G and push X and then hold control and move it that way. I could actually do it all without using the mouse. I could push G and I could push X and I could push -2, or actually just 2 in this case, or type. It doesn't want to go negative. Oh, there we go, -2. Okay, so I could do it that way as well. I could do it without even using the mouse. what we do want to do though is get it down there. So I'm just going to move it this way, Control. And I want to scale it, but I only want to scale it along that red axis. If you're ever unsure of which one is which, down here in the bottom left corner, you can see the red is the X. Okay, and there's that red line in there. I want to just scale it along that X axis. So I push X, it will scale it that way. I'm going to hold Control and do some scaling. I actually will hit Escape first and rotate it so I can see there. Scale, X, hold Control, and scale it so that this side here touches that, and I've got that going out there. Now in the next video, hopefully you've made that, and I'd like to see that when that's done. I mean, obviously, once again, if you're just watching at home, you don't need to show me. I don't need an email or anything like that. Just be proud if you've copied that. But if you're in class, I want to see this done. So just raise your hand. I'll come around, check it off, and you can move on to the next video where we'll actually do some proper editing of the model and not just work with primitives.